Yet another Toronto Audio Engineering Society meeting. For those who don't know, we are engineers who want to know more, but we also want to preserve, and we want to do presentations and participation, for posterity, right? We do 10 events a year-ish, plus or minus one. So, this is our Christmas meeting. We also have a YouTube channel, so it's kind of like a stereotypical that every YouTuber does, like a gadget, my favorite things of 2024. That's kind of the theme we're going for here. We unite audio engineers socially, so thanks for the pizza. I don't know who sponsored that. Somebody sponsored that. Anyway, thanks for the pizza. Within our allied arts, we collate and collect and disseminate the scientific information, the knowledge to further all fields of audio engineering. We're not trying to discriminate, the music industry isn't the audio industry, despite what some people like to think. So we try to cover the broad spectrum of audio engineering, and we aim to empower people of all ages through participation in a healthy, safe, open community. So thank you for being here. You're here to learn through events like this, presentations from our colleagues, the networking, and mentorship. I look out in the audience, I see a lot of my own mentors here with us today, people who've taught me, people who have educated me, and people who are not afraid to share the knowledge that they have. If you have more information, torontoaes.org, that's our website. We try to collate all of our event information there. Of course, we have sponsors because we need money for the pizza. So Adamson, avshop.ca, BRTV. I think BRTV changed their name. Does anybody know what they're called now? I can't remember. BRTV, Gear Audio, Sonotechnique, Lawo, Q5X, Solotech, which I learned is not French for only one technician. They actually send more than one technician. So, if you think you're getting a solo tech, no, it's a crew of people. Toronto Metropolitan University, formerly known as Ryerson, has supported our events. Of course, the University of Toronto music faculty, thank you to Jeff Wolpert. I can't see Jeff, there he is. Thank you very much for organizing this beautiful space. We'll clean up, I promise. At the end of this event, please put your chair away. I said it. Okay. And then, of course, the CERT, the Screen Industry Research and Technology Center at Sheridan. They've been fantastic. It is the holidays. Give the gift of membership if you're not a member, please. It's like a small fee. Why become an AES member? Well, we participate in a lot of standards. Anything audio related is on our website. We try to have absolutely every piece of information related to audio collated on our international website. So please join if you're not a member. If you're a member, thank you very much. We appreciate your membership. If you're part of the AES Toronto, thank you for that. That's very well appreciated. Like I said, we do 10 events a year. During COVID, we did YouTube events. Jafrita here has been recording our events for us as well. So you can go back in our back catalog and view some of our events. I'm not gonna lie, the audio is terrible, but it's our day off. And it's nothing against him. That's a good joke. Come on, seriously, that's a good joke. I'm not gonna do it. Who's gonna put this in post? We're gonna post this? Mix it to Atmos? No. Our executive, we have some executive members here. Our executive is the group of people who come together and we're kind of like an audio improv group. We come up with a topic, we say yes, and we do an event. So we have our chair, I'm the chair, I'm Anthony. Chris Sampson is our vice chair. Ross Whitney is here, he's our past chair. Treasurer, Jeff isn't here, Alan Clayton. Membership, Mariana, Brian. I've started handling the website, so if you get annoying emails, that's me. If you get emails with emojis, that's awesome. So hopefully they work. The Eventbrite is handled by our colleague Jeff, and we appreciate our committee members. Najib is here, Warren, Becca is not here, Angela's not here, and James isn't here. If you want to be involved, this email address is very easy to remember. It's just the domain name at thedomainname.org. So you can email Jeff. Thank you for that.
You mentioned all those people I wanted to clap.
Oh, thank you.
sweeping one.
I'm going to talk about Chris Sampson. Chris Sampson is our vice chair. Chris Sampson and I, we've known each other for, it feels like 20 years.
Yeah, around that.
But that's not true. Chris and I worked at Bell Media together. We worked at CBC together. We've worked across multiple amounts of projects. Absolutely crazy, well-talented engineer. If you want to read his bio, it's on the website. I'm just going to tell you that you should really listen to Chris because Chris has prepared a great presentation for you today called the Top Value Add Gadgets and Software. Chris, take it away.
So yeah, I've prepared a little bit. I've seen some cool stuff this year. Everybody has. Not everything that I'm going to talk about today is necessarily new, but there's some things that I think can bring value to your business without substantial investment. So I'm a broadcast A1. I work in television primarily, but I also do things like audience effects sweeping. So like I play the sounds of audiences off of keyboards for live events, because for live music production, if you try to put a bunch of mics in front of the PA, all of a sudden all you get is PA blow, and it kind of ruins your mix. And some audiences aren't that enthusiastic, and that doesn't help people sell soda. I do E&G, location mixing. I'm an electronics hobbyist. I work with the Toronto AES. I'm a passionate audioholic in all of my spare time, except for when I'm also a father at home. So I've got a little 10-month-old baby. This year I had the pleasure of working at CBC Studios for the Olympics in this remarkable room with a remarkable console, and the most important thing for us in this room of really, really valuable equipment. And I've got this habit of not taking enough pictures while I'm working, but the most valuable tool in this control room to us is this little tiny stream deck up here. Because with that little tiny stream deck, we could drive 5 consoles that were in Paris. They were Soundcraft UIs that we would just remote in through the firewire. But we could control all 5 of those consoles with this little stream deck. This Digico Quantum 338, same deal. All the patching, stream deck. CalRec RP1s, they're great on their own, and CalRec wouldn't let us talk to stream deck yet. But that little tiny 32 button piece let us control everything that we needed for around 1,100 channels of audio coming in and out of a desk that didn't have that kind of I/O. So we could just, what we did was we built macros. Actually, here's a little 360 tour of the controller. That little stream deck right up there. That was all of our patching. We didn't go into any Digico menus to assign sources. That little stream deck did 95% of our work. And I can't take credit for the design. That was Omar Davis, who Omar does a lot of work with Omar goes back to Anthony and I at CTV working in Much Music, and he's been in broadcast for a really long time. A brilliant engineer, hilarious guy. Moving on. So yeah, macro editor. We were able to make input channel patch assignments on the stream deck all day long for every one of our ISOs. We had 5 1 ISOs and another 3 mono ISOs that we could assign any source that we needed to any of these ISOs just extremely quickly with those 32 buttons, just by pre-building hundreds of macros in the Digico macro editor and then assigning them to key commands with OSC protocol. So, and that was a $300 investment controlling literally millions of dollars worth of equipment around the world from Toronto. So I would say $300 well spent. It doesn't necessarily have to be Elgato Stream Deck because the software that makes it really powerful is also free. It's called BitFocus Companion. And the difference between Stream Deck software for application control and Companion is that through the Elgato software, you don't get feedback from the application. So if you make a change in the application, without making that change on the Stream Deck, those changes aren't reflected on your buttons that have these nice LED displays. Whereas with BitFocus Companion, you can actually pull that feedback information, make changes in the application, you'll see it reflected on your displays, and vice versa. So really, really cool software to play with, completely free as long as you've got some kind of control mechanism. You don't need a Stream Deck, I really like tactile buttons, and I like that I've got the visual representation off of the keys as well. So very, very good stock and stuff. Anybody that's done any kind of measurement, we're going to be talking a lot about measurement next month, but a lot of us in the field, like I use Smart personally for measurement and calibration, but Open Sound Meter gives you a lot of the same functionality of Smart, and again, it is completely free software. So you can do your measurements, you can get a lot of really valuable information to help you make decisions. It's not as simple as correcting EQ problems with, like, correcting spectral problems in your room isn't as simple as boosting or cutting EQs, because if you've got modes in places, putting more of that frequency that is nulled out in your mix position is not going to help you hear much more. So on the DIY side, I couldn't afford a lot of the equipment that I wanted, so I bought electronics for dummies instead. Now I'm working on networking for dummies, but that's another thing. But this company, Camera Foundry, they sell 3D print design models that, like, for 29 bucks, you can just put the file into a 3D printer, and like this 4 hard drive bay from Blackmagic is around $2,000, and I printed it off at my public library for 7 bucks. So around $100 investment for these really nice 4 hard drive slots that are just hot swappable. So when it comes to end of day file delivery for your clients, just here's your drives, go. Pop in your drives, go. Quick, easy. What else do we have? DIY recording equipment. Peterson Goodwin started this website a long time ago, and he's one of those, he's so enthusiastic it will make you more enthusiastic the way he speaks about circuit topology and vintage circuit design, and he sells lots of build kits with the goal of teaching you more about the circuits that we all know and love. I just got a pair of these 1073s for Christmas, and yeah, I'm gonna be putting those together this year. What else? Hairball Audio makes some really, really good bus compressor kits, and like this is all paint by numbers. I was talking to Tristan and Anthony about this earlier. I'm not an electrical engineer, but I can paint by numbers with these build kits. So I usually get it together and make a mistake, and it ends up on Anthony's bench or Tristan's bench, and yeah. It's really good fun. It's really helpful to understand what the hardware that we're using is actually doing inside the box, right? Like understanding how FET circuits apply compression quickly. So, yeah, big fan of Hairball Audio stuff. Analog buys. This is the nicest build kit that I've ever seen. And he does them in series. So this is the 4th series that he's done, but he's working on a 176 circuit right now, and his build guides and the quality of his documentation is immaculate. It is really, really beautiful work, and he's really true to the history of the circuits that he's trying to replicate. So I very, very, very much enjoy analog vibe stuff. One of the other gigs that I do is audience sweetening, and this software Spectral Layers. It's almost like RX if you've got familiarity with that, but it uses AI for unmixing content. So you put a 2 mix into spectral layers, you identify an algorithm that you want to apply to unmixed content. So like the general version of it is mainly for music unmixing. So you can unmix drums, you can unmix bass, you can unmix guitars, vocals, effects, and break it out into all of its component layers from that 2 mix. And then start to restore with things like RX and fix that source sound. But for me, with audience mixing and trying to create sample libraries that better reflect some of the environments that I'm trying to play the sounds of audiences off of, things like the Juno Awards, where I get a 2 mix from the ambient mixer off of their like 5.1 surround group, but 90% of that content's useless because it's so full of PA blow. I started running it through spectral layers, and now I'd say about 85% of the captured content is usable because I can just take the crowd and I can remove the crowd. Most people would want to throw that crowd away. I want to throw everything else away and only keep the crowd and then start to break up those samples and rebuild new sample sets. So spectral layers is super fun to play with. I don't know how many people have been to recording. I heard some earlier talk of Atmos as a flavor of immersive content. I think Atmos gets a little bit too much credit for the idea of immersive content creation, but while everybody's been working in stereo, there's some really nice stereo microphones out there. Soyuz has made the best ambisonic microphone I have ever seen. It's a 4 capsule, but it's 4 of their 013 capsules, which are really, really nice compared to like, you know, like a Soundfield or Sennheiser has their Ambio, right? So like this is a more boutique flavor, whereas I might call some of the other options a little bit more sterile. But having an anchor point in your immersive mix that applies that space that you're seating everything else in is really helpful. Just like having, you know, a primary, you know, like having a decatrie from an orchestra as your main set to anchor what spot mics you might be pushing during certain sections. But primarily you're working off of that decatrie image that you're creating for like a 5.1 recording. So I'm a huge fan of the Soyuz stuff. They've also got a plugin that helps you decorrelate those 4 capsules worth of content into whatever type of channelization you want, right? So.
Is that you said that's a plugin? Like, what kind of DAWs support it?
Every major DAW manufacturer. So like it's AAX, it's AU, it's VST3, I think. And then my last piece of cool audio GAC for the year is Catherine North Electronics. Tristan's going to get into it a little bit more later on, but these little QTP to DB25 shields, AES 72, all of a sudden a pair of Cat 5s and you're done wiring your DB25 stuff. There's no more getting into the little connectors and wiring, like, no. Just throw the QTP shields on, terminate some RJ45s, and you're done. Super, super quick for wiring. So those are kind of my top finds for 2024. I think that's about all that I've got. Yeah,
Chris, you skipped a slide at the beginning about the electronics for dummies. And sorry for giving you a speed update, but like, go back to one of your first slides there. You had about electronics. Maybe talk a little bit about what you're trying to say there.
Well, with electronics for dummies, like the gear that I wanted to use was a lot more expensive, but the parts aren't. Like electronics parts aren't super expensive, so when it comes to starting to manufacture some of these circuits that were designed in the 60s and 70s, they weren't really complicated by modern standards. So for learning about electronics, electronics for dummies was really helpful in helping me like grasp the fundamentals enough to actually start building some of my own stuff. Yeah.
How do you find the quality of these reproduction kits compared to if you've had the chance to work with the originals?
I brought my blue stripe over to Revolution and put it up against theirs one time, and I could hear a bit of a difference. I don't know if I could hear $20,000 worth of difference.
Yeah, fair
But like the blue stripe from Hairball Audio, like for that Chris Cornell and that harmonic distortion when you hit it to like 10 to 20 decibels of gain reduction, like yeah, it's got it for sure.
You built an SSL kit too?
I did build an SSL kit, yeah, I built an SSL bus comp a long time ago, which I made some mistakes and blew up the VCAs that I had bought, but luckily a friend of mine had some spare SSL VCAs in his back pocket, and I was able to touch up the power supply before he put those in and slapped his signature on it. Yeah, SSL bus comp's another good project. I haven't done many EQs yet. I think I want to do a pair of Pultex next, but yeah, we'll see.
Are there any AI tools that you use?
I'm actually not big on AI, but you know who is? Is Anthony Kuzub over there. He uses a lot of AI tools. Like I'm starting to get into some AI plugins that just intelligent processors. Just if anything, like when I'm lacking inspiration for how to treat something, it's sometimes nice to be able to say, I don't know, what do you think? And just press the button and see what happens, right? Because even if it's not precisely there, it could be a good clue as to the direction that I want to go into something. So it can spur some inspiration. Yeah.
Is there some difference yet, or a definition of AI that is machine learning versus, the evil overlords? Is there some sort of term or terminology that's finally been able to
Okay, so we did a presentation on that. You gotta check our website, go to youtube.com, I think that's what they call it now. And I think AES Toronto, and we did a whole hour-long meeting on exactly what you just asked.
Perfect.
I would highly recommend you check that out.
Thank you, sir. Thanks.
You pre-recorded it before.
Yeah, please.
I guess
Oh, actually no, we did record that one. It was on the Synthy Toronto website. Yeah. The audio's terrible on it though. But the video is great.
Video is
Maybe
great.
someone, I don't know.
So can he use spectral layers then?
No. Fix it, folks. Sorry, we have one more question, then we'll go to
Yeah.
It's a really quick one. Since you're, really into audience sounds, what's your favorite go-to audience with time and location? Was some particular basketball game or something that you just love that audience on at night?
So my favorite gig to do every year is the Grey Cup, because I just have to do the halftime show.
Okay.
And that's almost exclusively outdoor audiences, and I inherited this work from a guy named Peter Campbell, who Anthony and I have been talking. We're gonna do a whole or half an event on just audience sweetening, because you can get really deep into the weeds on it. It started with this guy named Charlie Douglas and the Laugh Box. And Charlie Douglas built this Laugh Box that had a tape loop running constantly, that when he pushed a button down, it just slapped the head down, kind of like a Mellotron. And that way his audience always had a random in for the applause coming in and out of shows like the Honeymooners, or the Jetsons, the Flintstones, the Brady Bunch. Anything that was filmed in front of a live studio audience, not every episode was, and Charlie Douglas was playing keys. But anyway, yeah, I learned from a guy named Pete Campbell. And the best audience that we've got is actually from a George Fox comedy show, but that's the one that gets used for all the rock and roll concerts, just because there was no PA to mask a lot of the audience reactions, so that's a lot of the cheers and stuff.
Yeah. Who are our next presenter? Ed.
Oh, Ed, yeah, please. Ed's going to come up and talk about something that's noise.
Hello. I'm going to be a quickest presenter. I've got two things to talk about. So two little things to talk about, and one of them I've waited 35 years to present, 35 years almost, and Anthony guessed it yesterday. So 1990, people would build audio gear, this is analog stuff, and you'd wire your XLRs according to however you felt. There was no specification, there were no standards for AES connectors back in 1990. So at the AES convention in Los Angeles that year, they were giving out these. I've got 3, I found one. I'm gonna pass it around so you can see exactly how it helps you wire your AES cable, your audio cables with XLRs. That's half my presentation already. I was a tech for, and I am still, for over 30 years in pro audio facilities. So I've spent a lot of time fixing stuff. Never breaking stuff, right, Rob? Never breaking stuff. We would try to find how to make analog audio sound better. And quite often, this is what you get when you walk into a room in the morning. And this is just a crappy little guitar amp with a cable, nothing more. And it's picking up RF. And how the heck do you troubleshoot these things, right? You've got speakers all over, you've got equalizers, you've got amplifiers, and you're pulling your hair out trying to figure out where's the sound coming from, which piece of gear in the chain is it coming from. So all the stuff that we saw in that previous presentation was great, but it's pretty expensive. This is an XLR, it cost me maybe $10. I've wired, and I'm not the first one to do this, but so I just connected pins 2 and 3 together. You can't hear me. Is that too loud?
Yeah, it's too much. It's too
I'm
loud.
sorry.
There's a buzz. I don't know if you can hear it.
So for a couple of dollars, I've taken an XLR, I've stolen somebody's ID, and I've wired pins 2 and 3 together. And that allows me to go in and go, is it this cable? Yep. Is it that cable? No. I've shorted the input, right? And the noise is gone. So if the noise still continues while I've got the wrong feed, I'm going to go elsewhere. I'm just going to troubleshoot like that. Could be input EQ, could be an amplifier, could be an active speaker, who knows? This little $10 gizmo saves me a lot of time. Pins 2 and 3.
I love it.
That's it.
So,
Can you show us how this works? There's no.
How does it work?
Yeah, show the thing.
All right. I thought you'd enjoy it more if you got a chance. I'll still pass you on. So the AES Los Angeles, when there was no standard, said, let's put this little spin card together. We're going to flick it. Today we're wiring pin 2 hot. And so they put a lot of effort, and they were giving these things out freely. And then later on in that year, a standard was formalized, pin 2. So this thing had a shelf life of, I don't know, a month or something.
So, does anybody know why pin 2 was chosen?
I don't.
Because pin 3 was odd.
Thank you, Anthony.
See? I'm here all day. I'm here all night.
We know.
It's a good joke.
No. 3 or 4 years ago, I rewired my whole studio. We moved our console, had to do all the patch bays again, and I had some of our young engineers do some of the XLR ends. I'm still to this day, every so often, swapping pin 2 and 3 on some of them. It's just, anyways. Hi, I'm Tristan. I'm based out of Hamilton. I run a music studio called Captain North Studios. It's a beautiful old converted church. From there, I do work internationally. I've traveled around the world way too much. I used to do some aviation stuff with helicopters. They are not as fun as you think. They're loud, they're noisy, they're uncomfortable. And then we realize, oh, I'm here for 8 hours today for the next 2 months straight, and I get a bathroom break once we land every 4 hours. It's not that fun. I do PCB design fabrication, component level repairs I go down to, like reverse engineering stuff as well. I love integration with like microcontrollers and control systems. Electrical distribution and signal distribution I love. Acoustic measurements and then treatment design. Fun stuff to get into, itchy installation. I am really fascinated by like complex systems, how the rooms talk to each other, how the buildings talk to each other. I just love that stuff. But as I push my life, I'm focusing more on like little product design, some assembly, manufacturing. I work on distribution in Europe as well as North American distribution for some stuff. And I just like to make things simple, to make things like easy to connect or easy to adapt or convert things to each other. I just love when things are easy for people. I'm a generic synth nerd, slowly building Eurorack stuff. And I also own a cat, so my arms are always scratched up. Anyways, that's me in a nutshell. A friend of mine came up from Australia for this past month. I haven't seen him in 15 years or so, and having lunch one day, he just pulled out this app and showed this thing to me. Extra years, this thing is phenomenal for what it does. Great for, the main benefit is to think of like you're doing your boom op or your field recorders or something. This just gives you an idea of what sounds are in the area, what noises are being picked up, some things you might not be able to hear right away. It notifies you of airplanes. So if you're doing an outdoor shoot, it'll tell you like, hey, there's an airplane flying low coming up. It'll estimate how far away it is, how loud it's going to be in your vicinity. Pretty neat stuff. I haven't fully played with it, and it's endless of what the thing kind of reads to you and valuable information. Ideally, you'd want this like clipped in front of you with your field recorder, feeding it a line, because this right now it's relying on the built-in phone mic, which isn't the greatest at all times, but if you feed it a line with a signal, you're analyzing what you're recording. Gives you great feedback, endless amounts of things to watch out for, and it's literally just an extra set of ears monitoring what you're recording that you might forget. Just little 60 hertz buzz or something. This will identify it, show it to you, and give you some warning. FFT analyzer, noise prediction, ground hum detection, radio for high frequency from fluorescent lights. It does try to do RT60 calculations, distortion, lots of stuff. Free app, that's the other cool thing is that it is free. Give it a download, give it a try, play with it. Another thing that one of my colleagues who also does post-cleanup work pointed out was this lovely app called DXB5 by Sentize. It's pretty amazing. The demos that I've seen my colleague use of this thing is it pulls noises out and it just revives audio. But it's not just a set of complex filters, it also identifies, rebuilds missing frequency components, and enhances the overall tone quality and coherence and intelligibility. Noise removal, reverb suppression, restoration of the absent frequencies, elimination of codec artifacts, things like Skype compression or Zoom recording stuff, recovery of clipped audio, application of spectral corrections, and restoration of bandwidth audio. Like old phone calls, it tries to recreate the higher and cutoff frequency ranges. There's a little quick demo from their website I'll play for you here.
The hub AI algorithms at the heart of DX Revive. Our smart technology doesn't just remove noise, it resurrects lost audio details, rekindling the soul of your recordings.
I think it's something like 1 year or 2 years, 2-year project. I think it's something like 1 year or 2-year project. I think it's something like 1 year or 2 years, 2-year project.
With DX Revive, the heart.
With any video like that, I'm always cautious of how much was this actually staged to make it sound like it did a good job. But actually seeing friends use this in person, the thing was amazing. Which also brings me to everything else from this company. D-Reverb, the chameleon surround sound, the immersive reverb they have sounds beautiful and amazing. Voice gates to automatically help remove noise from vocal lines. Spectral balance for automatic speech EQ. Just amazing barrage of AI power or AI filter power kind of plugins that are great for post audio cleanup. One other thing being some of the manufactured electronics is what I discovered in the last year or two is water soluble solder flux. In solder, in the module like tin lead wire, or just in bulk in the jugs that I buy for some of my soldering equipment that I have. When you're doing small scale repair, the normal Rosin stuff that leaves that burn crystal kind of residue behind, that's fine for quick work. But when you're doing quick production or mass production where you're doing hundreds of circuit boards, to take rubbing alcohol and scrub that stuff off and chip all the flakes off, there's no time to do it. You can get specialized pressure equipment to run and clean things, but if you just use water soluble flux, water will wash that residue away. Somewhat safe for electronics, don't dump pots into it, but you rinse the stuff off, it's really a little brush, wipes it all off, clean circuit boards, very simple, straightforward to do. You must clean it, it does stay a little corrosive if you don't wash it off, but it saves so much time in manufacturing and labor. Hearing protection, because I love safety and stuff. Everyone should have the hearing protection with them. We all work in audio, and the main tools that we have are our ears. So have hearing protection, but also just be aware of monitoring your surroundings if you're in a noisy environment. Another phone app is this Decibel X. There is a free version, pops up with ads every so often, gives you some readings. There is a paid version you can pay yearly, but it gives you, you have a geofrequency analysis. It'll give you a readout of the room that you're in. It'll give you the cool things, the dosimeter. It'll calculate based on how long you're recording, how long you're monitoring, how loud it is, and how much percentage of hearing you can tolerate throughout a day with that. I was in a club once seeing a band play late at night, and Within 5 minutes, the dosimeter said 250%. The average level is around 112 decibels in this bar, and I left the show. I couldn't stay there any longer. Even hearing protection that like doesn't help, but just safety stuff. Monitor what you're around and monitor the environment that you're in. Just make sure you're not injuring yourself in any way. Slow slide. I like that one. And my real kicker is, and I'm sure everyone's heard about these things from Anthony over the years, is the AES 72. 4 lines of balanced signal over a single Cat5 cable, whether it's shielded Cat5 or just normal Cat5e. You can also use Cat6, Cat7, Cat8. The big thing is that you have 4 twisted cables within one little cable. So Cat5 cable is, it's a 4-channel snake. Analog balanced signal, DMX, AES3 can run down this thing. It's amazing. It's been around for 100 years already using balanced transmission. It's really picked up in the last 20 to 25 years. It really became a thing when AES 72 got published in 2019. Is that 19 or 18? Anyways, but there's so many more manufacturers that are out there. Radio has their Catapult system. There's the SSS Snake from Thonman over in Europe and Germany. Studio Hub from Angry Audio. Redco down in the United States is starting to release their own little devices and breakout boxes. I make the little D-sub adapters like Chris pointed out. Trick recently released their own little breakout box, but all of these things are the AES 72, which is just audio over Cat5. And it just makes cabling so much easier. The cost you save on doing like a multi-channel snake, traditional Mogami kind of stuff versus shaped box run-of-the-mill Cat5 is astronomical. My studio itself, our MCI console has 32 in and 32 out wired to our little Orion interface. That's 100 feet away. To do that with Mogami, 5,000 plus in cabling just to get 8-channel snakes that long. I did it under $200 with the cable. So, yes.
So, I've never used these because I'm a little dubious about not having a shielded audio connection on at least one end. Mm-hmm. Have you tried these things and have you got any noise problems with them?
So my studio with that 100-foot length of 32 ins, 32 outs, that's 64 channels of line level balance back and forth, 100 feet, unshielded cable, no issues, 0 issues, and that's running parallel to some power lines as well.
It's not going in its own conduit?
Wide exposed in the air, no conduit, no shielding. The real benefit is because it's balanced audio, because it's a balanced transmission and receiver, it's canceling that noise out by the time it reaches the receiver.
Yeah, what's the benefit from a shield?
The shield really stops like a little bit of RF energy,
yeah.
Which, yeah, you will get the extra benefit of blocking that in the first place. Yeah. And just like any other cable, the transmission quality relies on the cancellation, the common mode rejection.
Right.
Before we get to this question here, I just want to say that in that standard, both Tristan is mentioned and also Ron Lynch is mentioned. So Ron's sitting here, and Ron kind of inspired me to steal his idea, and really inspired some of this QTP stuff. As what was the production facility, Ron, that was wired this way? Technicolor. So all of Technicolor is wired with this standard before it was a standard. So there's a lot of and also the telephone system. I think the whole telephone system.
That's where I go. It's like telephone lines. It's long distance cable. It's a balanced signal.
The telephone is bandwidth limited.
Pardon?
Telephones are typically bandwidth limited.
True.
Right? It's going to go with 3.5K or something.
This rolls off at 30 meg.
Really rolls off depending on the equipment, the transmitter and the receiver. That's really the defining point of the system. The communication cable, if you have a good twisted cable with enough twists, you're getting that balanced signal, the common mode rejection in the wire. So as long as the transmitter and the receiver are good, you cancel the noise out.
And you haven't encountered any problems with this stuff? Because like if your driving source has not matched impedances, your signal to noise is going to go up.
Well, whether you have a Mogami XLR cable that's shielded or you're running the AES 72 over Cat5, if you're not driving that cable right, you're going to have the same issue.
Yeah.
So it's not a matter of, is the cable going to cause the issue? The cable is a twisted pair. It's the driver and receiver.
Sorry, what about unbalanced audio, Tristan? Yeah, I think maybe his question might
unbalanced.
To what happens if you mix unbalanced audio into a fully twisted pair balanced signal?
That's where you start running to those unknowns of what kind of a ground would you start getting there. Because any unbalanced signal, you need that ground as your reference for that signal. Whereas with the balanced signals, you have your in phase, your out of phase, your opposite polarity of each inside of each pair. Question here.
To the shielding point though, isn't that what Cat 6 and Cat 7 someone's talking about? That it's basically more shielded?
I'm finding a lot more, like there is unshielded Cat 6, but I'm finding as we progress more into our development of like using more Cat 6 in construction, there's going to be I'm seeing a lot more common shielded cables being manufactured.
What about phantom power return, Tristan? What happens to the shield?
So, if you're doing this with as a microphone line, low level microphone signal, you will need that shield for the return on the phantom power of the microphones. That is the only caveat, is that you do need a shielded connection to bring that ground shield connection over to the microphone to do the phantom power. So there is still that limitation of it's not run unshielded for everything. You can absolutely run shielded cable, and most people, because it's the price is so different, or so little difference between a shielded and unshielded cable, you might as well just do the extra couple dollars and do the shielded wire anyways.
You
Yes.
kind of touched on this one. We talked a lot about line level. How does this system behave with mic level signals?
A lot of people have been using it with no issues. I do have a few lines in our studio that are running microphone levels and with phantom through a shielded cable with no issues that we've noticed or been able to measure. Your limitation is really the same as, Mogami cable. How far do you want to run? 300, 400, 500 feet? I think it was 2012 or something. I went to Wardback with Anthony and I brought from Sale Electronics a $100 box of Cat 5. And I remember running that entire 1,000 feet around the Wardback warehouse, around the 600 volt transformer. I think we might have shoved some coils into the transformer casing a little bit. And then the audio precision was just like, what are you doing? There's nothing really, what am I measuring? There's nothing wrong. Just flat response, no real artifacts. Yes?
This is brilliant. This is really cool. I'm just curious about one thing. If you ran, say, 100 feet of a Mogami versus 100 feet of Cat 5, and you compared the high end from an audio source, did you find any difference in the audio quality?
No.
Because even if I compare like a cheaper,
I have to differ here. I have to tell you an experiment I did with a single piece of 6-foot AC, and this blew my mind. I have a console. They sent me a stupidly expensive 6-foot AC cable just to the wall. And then I did a mix on the console. It's full recall. And I had we recorded twice. Once with the normal AC cable, once with the new AC cable. And then I blind tested it coming back. I never got it wrong. I never once got it wrong. A 6-foot frickin' piece of AC cable. It blew my mind. I never once got it wrong. That was unbelievable. That 6 feet of copper made a huge difference to the sound of the situation, and I have no idea why.
Crazy.
But copper seems to make a difference. And I've done this with mic lines too. I mean, not the high end, it's the low end you get changes extraordinarily, especially on unbalanced cable.
Yeah.
So it does make a difference.
Yeah, especially with unbalance, absolutely. You're pushing that signal across the resistance of that long cable, so you're also measuring the distance on the reference coming back. So you will get a loss with an unbalanced signal, but ideally with a good balanced transmitter receiver, you should, in theory, they should see the same difference and cancel the differences out.
Tristan, that's scary stuff. Like, So you say at the bottom here, wanting to talk about this can get you banned from popular Facebook.
I've received many threats from the all about the same group.
So is it that people are, like, again, just so skeptical of the, 90% of Mogami cable is plastic? Right?
I mean, now I'm not saying don't use Mogami, don't use cheap cable all the time. Definitely thick cables, they have their place. On a live stage, I would not take a Sale Electronics patch cable and run that across a stage where things might roll over it. But Mogami's great because it's durable, it's rugged, it's a lot more flexible than solid core Cat 5. So there's definitely, but now we're not talking about the sound over the cable, we're talking about the construction and durability and reliability of the cable. Completely different.
So in this application, is it better for fixed installations that don't move, or is it mechanically equal?
Bit of both. The RJ45 connector is very robust in its own sense, but also it's a piece of plastic with a couple spring-loaded gold contact pins rubbing on a connector. If it's in a rack and that rack's not moving, it's not moving. It's not going to disconnect or go anywhere. But if you're again running cables across the stage, if you're using one of these boxes as we got 3 of these as drum mic inputs on a rolling riser. You can still do it, but use the common Ethercon stuff where it's a thick exterior jacket, it's rugged, it's durable, It's not going to break as easily when someone coils it up over their shoulder wrong. Chris?
Solid core versus stranded cable, any difference?
Again, this is now choosing like, what is the cable for? How durable do you want it to be? How flexible do you want it to be? Solid and versus stranded performance is the same in the audio realm, but it's more of, will it be flexing?
Sure.
Put a stranded in. Is it fixed in a rack, going into a box, into conduit, running away to another box, into more conduit? Solid core is fine. You're not going to be pulling it in and out of the rack all the time.
Oh, here, I'll let Luke ask a question. So if I was to hypothetically put this through like a bunch of patch cables, how many could I get away with before I start experiencing problems?
Talking like extending it and like coupling.
Yeah, like if I have like pre-existing network patch runs
In a public broadcast?
Possibly.
Well, let's say this room had an Ethernet jack and that room over there had an Ethernet jack, and somewhere there was a patch room. Could someone hypothetically patch, do a cross patch, and then do another room?
In theory, absolutely. As long as you have metal on metal contact, as long as you're transmitting the signal properly, it'll transmit. As with any system, as you add more interconnects, you have that potential of failure at those interconnects.
What happens when I plug this into an Ethernet switch?
You ever turn on that track of SMPTE on the end of a 2-inch stream? Maybe you'll get noise, maybe you won't, depends on what the switch is doing, what it's transmitting.
I see you have red, blue, and green. Why are
green is coming? I've got a request for green already.
Okay. So theoretically there are 8 factorial pinouts to AES 72 for an 8-pin connector. 8 factorial means 8 times 7 times 6 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. That's how many potential pinouts are there. So what have you noticed in the audio industry related to pinouts?
AES 72 4E, 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 that one's also 4E. I only put 4E stuff up here. If you go to something like Sound Tools makes a lot of great, little patch boxes as well. They have their own breakout system. The Rat Tails, I think they call that system. They use AES 72-0 or 20. Radial, their catapult system, doesn't actually use an AES pinout standard, possibly yet. But it's the same technology, whereas audio over a Cat5 cable, their pinout just doesn't match anything that's in the actual standard. I got a request for AES 5E. There's a company in Germany that wants to have a bunch of these adapters made in the 5E pinout. So there is a compatibility issue with the whole AES technology that's I'm kind of dealing with, because I'm one of the largest suppliers of these little D-sub adapters around the world. So I'm getting this compatibility issue of the pinouts not matching devices.
There was a standards organization.
But within the standard, you can choose what part of the standard to follow.
Yeah.
So I am dealing with that. It's hitting me a little bit on the business side. I have there's a radio station down in Nashville that ordered about 50 of these adapters for their new install at their building. Shipped them there, got them there with FedEx. A couple weeks went by, they did their install, came back like, oh, our channels are out of order and out of phase. They don't match the radio boxes that we put into our racks for the XLR breakouts. I say, well, you need the blue ones for the radio. It's a different pinout, sorry. But good manufacturer. I've done an exchange with them to swap them out.
My problem with what's the problem with standards?
So many to choose from.
No. Nobody reads it. Nobody reads the standard that's already been done, and nobody could possibly read all the standards that have been written. So the problem with standards, there's a lot to choose from, but if you refuse to read the whole thing cover to cover, it'll create your own problems.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a question back here.
There's no question. AI can read all the standards, right?
Sorry?
AI can read.
AI can read all the standards. So that'd be a great thing. Go into GPT right now, ask about AES 72, and see what it comes back to. So if anybody has OpenAI on the phone, I highly recommend they do a little survey right now.
It'll return the high probability of ones with emails.
Well, and that probability comes from usage. And I think what Tristan is saying is like, okay, so who is the biggest manufacturer that's come out with a device recently?
That one's hard to say. I can't judge based on, I don't know their sales and numbers, but the largest competitors, at least in North America, have been the Sound Tools, the Radial System, and the Neutrik and the Redco brand of items.
That little connector company of
Yeah.
Liechtenstein.
Yeah, those guys, those Neutrik guys. But yeah, there is just a wide range of pinouts and manufacturers for these. There's also, the links from Amazon. You can get those manufactured from China. Those are another pinout as well. I believe they're the 1M, which is the white version of the cards. So it's always a fun world I'm dealing with here. Anyways, New Year brings, I have my little wooden prototype, little breakout box is coming out soon. New Year, that's all.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, you got the AI answer back.
Yeah, the AI, the Gemini says, watch in detail. It tells you AES 72 is a versatile standard that can be used in a variety of audio applications, including 5 live sound recording studios, broadcast, and it uses transmitting 4 channels of analog audio and 8 channels of AES audio over a single Cat 5e6 cable.
Okay, yeah, well, that didn't give us the right answer. I think you got prompted differently, but that's.
Yeah, is it?
It's a good description of it.
No, it has got more details.
Thank you, Tristan. I'll burn through this pretty quick. Don't bother taking pictures. I might post this online. But if you want to take pictures, it'll move fast. I got a bunch of slides, so we'll talk about this. So there is a door prize. This company, Mayat, I don't know how to pronounce that. Well, seriously, how would you pronounce that company? Mate? It's Australian? Like Dante. Dante's Australian, so. So they offered us this a psychoacoustic stimulus designed specifically for audio engineers. I'm like, yeah, this is exactly. So if you're interested in this door prize, send an email to torontoaes at torontoaes.org. The fewer people that enter, the higher chance you have of winning. Again, we're the Toronto AES. Please visit our website. Once again, thanks to our sponsors, Adamson, avshop.ca, BRTV, Gear Audio, Sono Technique, Lavo? Is it Vo? Okay. Yeah. Anyway, that's German. It's German? Okay, excellent. Q5X, Solotech. TMU, again, our host tonight, Toronto, University of Toronto, and CERT. I'm Anthony. I'm a designer, blah, blah, blah. You'll figure me out very quickly here. A hobby is actually 2 hobbies. The hobby and shopping for the hobby. So if you're a hobbyist like myself, you'll understand what I'm about to go through. I'm not really endorsing anything. These are things that I think are cool and really worth sharing, so I'll go through it. This is my garage. So I don't really do much audio anymore. I'm more into shielding enclosures, if that's a hobby. So I'm into like the boxes metal go into. Tristan was passing around his device. The hardest part about making audio equipment is the box it goes in. So that's kind of my jam. So I have a mill and I have a lathe and I do sheet metal work and I do bending and folding. So I have a lot of peripherals to my hobby. This is my new bandsaw. My wife was not too happy to see that show up. But,
where's the upload pictures?
There's a whole video on my YouTube channel. On the other side of the metal shop is my electronics shop. So I do automated test and measurement. It's kind of my jam. So I'm absolutely obsessed with the measurement of audio things. And so I go as deep as I can into absolutely everything. I used to own recording studios. So I wrote this thing called the Recording Studio Survival Guide, where I tried to offer like a totally complete, there are a lot of not very awesome things you need for a recording studio, but there are things that if you don't have in your recording studio will put your session to a halt. So I wrote a survival guide for that. So my email or my domain is like.audio, so my email address is i@like.audio, so that's how deep I get into this. I love fancy things. I'm a big fan of like Nagana recorders, and lately there's this cool company called Teenage Engineering, and they do these little tiny fancy recorders. This is a little recorder called the TP TP7. It does not stand for toilet paper. It's like a tape player, but it's really tiny. It's like 1/2 inch by 4 inches, and they do these little tiny synthesizers. Look at that little mixer. That's like the size of a hand. This little disc spins, so you can actually like start and stop, play out. It's really cool little device. There's also little tiny portable recorders. There's this company called Tentacle, and one of my colleagues, he was doing like a spoken word group of like, he would do recordings of people telling war stories. So he literally sent them this little tripod base, a little 3D printed stand, a microphone plugged directly into that, and he just said, okay, just hit record and mail it back to me, and that's how people told their war stories. We had an event on acoustics and studio design. Let me tell you, the bottom, like the sky has fallen out on acoustic treatment. You can go on Amazon for less than what it costs to paint. You can actually hang acoustic treatment now. So you can go and buy $20 worth of, for less than a can paint. Like a can paint is like 45, 50, 60 bucks nowadays. You can actually get acoustic treatment for that kind of price range. So the bottom has fallen out on acoustic treatment. But if you don't have acoustic treatment, the sky is really high when it comes to noise reduction, because you can spend tens of thousands of dollars on noise reduction software and noise reduction devices to actually remove noise. So it's kind of, well, do you spend the money up front or do you spend it in the back end? But Cedar released this as a little 4-channel device compared to their 2-channel stuff and their 4-channel stuff. If you're a recordist, there's this thing called Boom Recording. And what it does is, you run this piece of software, you say, these are your inputs, and boom, you're recording. It is up to 256 tracks, Mac only, unfortunately, but you can feed time code into it, so you could say, channel 9 is your time code, and there's your time code. So very simple, boom, you're recording. I kind of absolutely love it. This is a free tool I think everyone should get into. It's called Sonic Visualizer. Well, you want to visualize sound, so you get the Sonic Visualizer. I use this all the time at work to, diagnose noise, show a spectrogram relative to another thing. I drop in markers, take a lot of screenshots, pass that off. Sonic Visualizer. This is a keyboard I absolutely love. I got some head nodding already. This is the Expressive E by Osmos. This is a 4-dimensional synthesizer, so what the hell does that mean? You push the key, it's constant, like every time you push it, it's a constantly variable value that comes out of it. You can wiggle the key back and forth. You can like,
this video is going to be something really special.
It is. You can tell by his hair it's going to be special. Yeah. This guy is Antti Morinelli. He's just a fantastic synth YouTuber kind of thing. But the whole thing about it is this controller can control multiple synths simultaneously, but it has a whole bunch of unique pads and sounds that are designed for this, the wiggling, very expressive audio.
This video is going to be something really special.
He's very something special. I love that guy. This is the Arturia KeyStep Pro. If you're into modular synthesizer or something like that, this is a 4-channel sequencer as well as drum sequencer as well. So you can have 4 channels, play those as loops, you can play arpeggiators on it. But the other cool thing about it is if you're into the modular synth stuff, is it has voice output, so you have pitch, volume, gate. These are drum gates coming out the back of it, a clock, MIDI in, MIDI out. Very flexible keyboard controller. Just highly recommend getting into stuff like that. But if you're, on the cheap, you can actually get into little pocket synths. There's a couple companies that are now making and manufacturing these things. This is the Monosynth. The Monosynth is like an open source synthesizer, so you can actually, fully program it however you want. There's a company called Teenage Engineering, like that recorder. They do like the pocket operator, and again, it's just these little tiny micro synths. Then there's like handheld synthesizers. So this is one of my favorite handheld synthesizers. Okay, so this guy, watch this. This is great. So what it is, it's a little handheld synth. And what you do is you actually, and you open up the mouth, and it, fantastic little gift if you want to get one of those for your kid. It's really annoying, so if you have a parent or someone you don't like, get one of these. So it's just, but you hold it, you press, you can do vibrato on it, and it can be very expressive as you just saw. Like in the hands of a real instrument, or sorry, in a real musician, it can do some serious stuff. And again, with real instruments and real players, the need for such big, huge guitar amplifiers has completely been revolutionized. These little Fender things are amp modelers, right? There's a whole set of DSP in there. You connect to this thing with Bluetooth, model your amplifier, change your amplifier. It's a Fender branded kind of thing. Like they've sunk a lot of R&D into these little micro practice amplifiers, and they're just spectacular. If you're into synchronization, this is a little thing. Who's into synchronization? We got some sync fans back there. Okay, so this is the Sync It Plus. So what you do with this little device is you hold it up to your blinking frame here, and there's a little microphone on the top corner here. And what this does is it measures how far out the beep to the blink ratio, and it displays the beep to the blink ratio on the screen. So if you do a lot of video and audio synchronization, or if you're in broadcast, something like this is a game changer, absolute game changer.
So you record that at the beginning of your video, or you use that to measure? So
you can do two things. So that device itself is both a generator as well as this is just what this thing does. So if I set this into output mode and one in input mode, you can put a camera on it and face it, or you can play this video clip to check your broadcast stream. So you can do both. You can do both a clip, or you can use the thing as a generator. So they work in pair, in tandem with one another. Extremely, extremely accurate. Loudness fans? Any fans of loudness here? This is one of the best pieces of software I've seen for loudness measurement. A lot of studios are now installing them. So I do a lot of radio broadcast facilities, and we have dedicated loudness meters per studio. And you can have a piece of software like this that integrates it over time. So you can actually see what your loudness is over a period of time. The company's called Yuli Monitor. But sometimes you gotta dedicate an entire computer to that function. So what I've found is I've got myself into these credit card sized computers, and I run them in studios all over the place, and they're just fanless mini PCs. They're good $200 or something like that, but we're talking about a Windows 11 running on a Celeron to just run one application. So if you ever think, hey, why am I gonna waste a whole computer running some loudness meter? Look at this thing, it's just, the other thing I've done is it's got Ethernet as well as Wi-Fi, so you can get virtual sound cards, your Dante controllers. Just when you think like, I want a laptop that does this one task, $300 computer, plug it in, away you go. If you're into design like me, you need some kind of piece of CAD software. Any AutoCAD fans out there? Any fans of pain for AutoCAD out there? Didn't think so. So this is QCAD. I've been using this QCAD for 20 years now. It's a $34 two-dimensional CAD software. If you know anybody who wants to get into CAD or just needs to open DXF files, let me tell you, this garburator will just open anything you throw at it. The other thing I love about this is it has a feature that I've never seen in AutoCAD, if anybody can correct me. So let's say you wanted to draw this line here. When you draw a line, you can actually do math in the line equation. So instead of typing 34, you can type 34 plus 12 plus 3, or you can do 3 times 10 in brackets and doing that. So I've never seen that in any other CAD software, and for mechanical layout, changed my life, absolutely changed my life. If you're into higher end acoustic design stuff, there's a new piece of software called AES 5. Anybody use AES 5? Any AES users around here? So if I went to, what's that called? Roy Thompson Hall down the street there? We'll just skip that. So if I go to a major concert hall, what you will be able to ask from them is for an EASE file. And what an EASE file is it's an architectural representation of the acoustic space. And what sound designers do who are touring or designing for professional installations do is you can simulate speaker placement, simulate the speaker grouping, speaker heights, and then generate some kind of pattern and some kind of acoustic analysis of the architectural space. This is called EASE. It is an industry standard, say that word again, but easy room modeling, advanced room modeling, EASE is the name of the piece of software. If you've never seen it before, it's hyper niche as we get into hyper niche. If you're into design, like if you're a designer, there's this beautiful book out there by a guy named Henry Dreyfuss. Does anybody know Henry Dreyfuss, what he's famous for? Any architectural fans out here? He designed the John Deere tractor and the ergonomics of the John Deere tractor. And what this book does, you see there's a fader on top? That's why I bought the book. I'm like, look, what's this book about faders? But there's like the average rocker switch, or how a toggle switch works, or the average reach of a person who's driving a tractor or working at a console in a space. So if you're an industrial designer and you want to know that the average person's arm reach is that, this book has all of that in there. And the GBI, this is a good one for you. This is a great, if you're an industrial designer, this is an absolute must-have book. Some cool stuff that I found is, looking at this little camera, microphones are cameras for audio. That's terrible. That's not how it works. That's not how it works at all. But we always want to point things in weird places, and you want to move in three-dimensional space. And what I found is these triad orbit stands. They call them, I don't know, they're all different. None of these model names mean anything to me. But what they are is they're a ball joint that you unloosen this, and the ball joint moves around in 3D space. And I've really found them to be just absolutely fantastic. Like this microphone only moves this way and turns this way. But these triad orbit things allow you to really finesse the positioning of things. We've been experimenting with microphones all the time. You see them on podcasts all the time. SM7, anybody know the SM7? It's like the professional version of the bingo collar microphone, but it's in a rigid package. It's like the industry standard for podcasting, but they sound like the professional version of the bingo collar microphone. It's just an SM58 with a big body and a stand with it. So we've been experimenting with what kind of microphone to get into, and this has been like eye-opening. Like we were talking about things that have changed people's perspective. This microphone sounds like life is kind of my take on it. It's a small diaphragm condenser microphone disguised as a dynamic microphone, but it's just a fabulous microphone. If you're looking for something to try, they're consumable. They're under $500, so just buy as you will. Always looking for new, cool, creative stands, right? We found these little Rode DS2s. You can see that's the Earthworks on it with the triad orbit, and you can unloosen just this one little clip and move that microphone into whatever space you want. So, but we weren't happy with that. So I actually designed my own microphone stand in QCAD, and I had these cut. So I don't know if you know about this website. It's called Send Cut Send. So if you don't have a metal shop in your garage, you can take your DXF file and you can send. They cut and they send it back to you. So this is 1/2-inch steel, painted black, tapped, and sent to my door, like on a credit card. I didn't even have to do anything. But the whole thing about this microphone stand is, again, it's an articulated ball joint, articulated ball joint, articulated ball joint. And the thing about this design is these, as you can see, they nest into one another. So when desk space is at a premium in a broadcast facility, we try to get things as close as we possibly can. So if you can't find the thing you want, you make it. You had a question, Ed?
What are the 4 holes for?
Those are for rubber feet that screw in from underneath so they don't screw up the acrylic top.
So what was the cost per?
I don't know. I don't know, maybe this was $300.
So they wouldn't let you have the laser cutter in the garage.
Well, the laser wouldn't cut that. I would need like a 16,000 watt laser to cut half-inch plate steel. Sorry, somebody else had a question? I saw a little.
Are they made domestically?
Domestic within North America, yes. There are Canadian manufacturers that would do this, but not as easy from a website point of view. Like, again, it's all about user experience with SendCut Send. This is my favorite USB device. So this is legit. So I was asked to do a survey of in an office space, how everybody's too loud. They're on their noise canceling headphones having these conversations. And I said, well, what you need to do is you need to have an open ear headset so people can hear the ambient noise and they're aware of how loud they're talking. And are you on a call? Yeah, I'm on a call. Can't you see I'm on a call? People are at their desk, they got their headphones on, rocking out. Are you on a call? Yeah, I'm on a call. It's a USB device, you plug it in, it's a sound card. It's just an input output. Tristan, go.
How does that feel to slam down again?
Oh, you know what?
Is it satisfying?
It's super satisfying. The best part is you go like this, you go, and you can't do that with a headset. Right? So anyway, GTEL, payphone.com/USB handset. They're cheap, but it's totally the best thing I've ever bought. Wireless microphones. Wireless microphones are changing. Again, everything's becoming smaller, software-defined radio. These little jobbies are everywhere. We have slowly gotten away from the high-end broadcast stuff because convenience trumps everything in terms of getting the ENG records going. So I've seen a lot of these, so it's two transmitters and a recorder. No, two transmitters and a receiver, but they're also recorders. So if you hit record on the transmitter and it's a recorder, you pop it into a USB container and it charges it just this big. So that kind of stuff has really changed how we use wireless microphones.
How much was that kit worth that you were showing us?
No idea. Whatever. It costs what it costs. I have no idea.
Expensive down from CBC.
I have no idea. Well, the thing about it is, I do have a credit card that actually says CBC on it. But when it comes down to it, it's fiscal responsibility. When you get into something like that from Rode, it's actually cheaper than some of the professional broadcast broadcast stuff that you get into, or that's been traditionally sold.
It's never cheap. It's more cost effective.
It's more. That's exactly it. This is not cheap, but the thing about it is, it serves a unique feature. This is effectively a hearing aid that has Bluetooth connected to these guys. So if you ever see a presenter on the air, they're wearing something like this because if you can't see the wires, it sounds good, right? So in television, it's really all about an illusion of magic, an illusion of it just gets there magically. So I'm looking for a replacement for this. So if anybody knows anything better than this, I want to know. But this is a little Bluetooth receiver. You pair it with the earpiece and away you go. But they are effectively repeaters, right? So this space can go to this repeater, to the earpieces. So they're used very commonly on film sets and all over the place. But if you have an alternative, please let me know. I'm totally looking for that. Then you get into the big boys of the beast of wireless microphones. This is a new Sennheiser product called the Spectera. So Spectera is spectacular and terrible. I don't know what Spectera is short for. But it's Specterable. No, that doesn't work. That's a terrible marketing Sennheiser. But it's 4 antennas, a controller. You can cascade these devices. There's Dante. It is Australian, so it's Dante. It's not Dante, just for people. There's also Maddie you can plug into this, and I think that one was for a 2110. This is all prototype stuff, but Sennheiser just came out with this, and the reason why I think it's the coolest thing is the belt pack is both an in-ear monitor and a microphone transmitter in one. I know it's not new. I know it's not like Zaxcom used to do this, but they own the patent for that, and the patent expired. But you know, patents are broken, so that's kind of another whole thing. So you plug the antenna in. This is both in-ear monitor and receive in one package. So that's spectacular, or spectera-acular, or whatever it is. We'll work on that one. If you're into wireless antennas and wireless microphones, things can get very complicated when you start zoning things. So this is a really bizarre piece of equipment that you don't need, definitely. But if you do have 8 zones and you want to pool all of your receive antenna together, what you can do is you can actually get this matrix that combines antennas or it shuts off antennas. So one of the things in broadcast facilities is if you have one zone active, you don't want the noise from 7 other zones contaminating your one zone, so you can shut it off programmatically. So big antenna management. One of the things, who here has an iPhone? Who here doesn't have a cell phone on them right now? That's actually a better question. What I found when we're doing control rooms is people always want to plug in their phone. They always want to charge it someplace. So they go and they find a computer, and they go and they plug their phone into the computer. And it just like, well, that's a security risk. You know, your phone is now part of that computer, starts importing all the contacts, blah, blah, blah. So what I got into the habit of doing when I did control rooms was I would pop down these little charge stations at the control positions, so the operator would just drop their cell phone there, it would charge there, they would know where it is, and it wouldn't impact any of the systems that they were plugged into. So these little chargers in a studio, not every phone, but most phones support these wireless chargers. Speaking of power, one of the things that's really changed my opinion of power is, every power bar is a PDU, a power distribution unit. And when you get into the voodoo of the audiophiles and the Furmans and the Surgexes, et cetera, there's like another level on top of that, which is data center power distribution units. And where this really kicks into gear for me is I can log into this power bar and shut off this plug. I can log into this power bar and see how much power I'm consuming. I can log into this power bar, and what else can I do with this, Luke? I can do so many things.
You could monitor it.
Yeah, I could monitor it. So for us in the broadcast world, we're really, trying to be in a green initiative. So how many watts does that studio consume? I don't know. Like, how do you measure that? We measure it by doing that. The other thing about these is they're also surge protectors, right? So it's really, kind of like an all-in-one type of solution for power distribution, monitoring, metering, all of the above. Now you get into the tools. I don't know, who's seen one of these? Has everybody got one of these? Who's got one? Yeah, you got one. So this is the NTI, or TI, or what it used to be, that's an N. There's a little glare on that. But this is a little tone generator. And sometimes you just need to take tone with you. Who's ever just needed to take a tone generator? Let's see, we got hands up in the back. Like, it's a real thing. So when you get into these tone generators, sometimes you need to have a sine wave. Sometimes you want to listen to 1K just for fun. I'm more of a 400 hertz guy myself, because it really doesn't matter. But you also sometimes need a sweep, sometimes you need burst, sometimes you need noise. Maybe you just need a wave file playing through things all the time. This little handheld pocket, if you've got big pockets, it will fit in there. Maybe you might need a second pocket for the cable. DMMs, who here doesn't own a DMM? Like seriously, they're just kind of absolutely everywhere. The sky is the limit when it comes to DMMs. This is one of my favorites, is Fluke. Just Fluke is a brand, but this one, it has a removable remote display. So if you're like at a breaker panel and you don't have a friend, because you're always working alone, you can take the remote display with you. That is a cool thing. And then there's these, they're called twist guard test leads. And if you're like me, these little things, you twist it, and that little guard gets exposed. Tristan's mouth is
so many of the little capsules.
Well, I've you know, like everybody's had, like, and if you look, it actually changes from a Cat 3 to a Cat 6 probe. Like, it actually, like, the molding changes on it because the protection value of it goes up. So if you're like me and you're afraid of tube amps, those are for you. Highly recommend those. Those have really changed my opinion of how test equipment should actually work. Come on, next. If you're into that kind of thing, if you were at what was called InstaFesta, we had one of these. This is my little Rigol. This is kind of like a low barrier entry oscilloscope. It's a 50 megahertz, but there's a hack out there that you can punch in your serial number and you can make it 100 megahertz. I like to say it's the hack that sold 1 million scopes. And they're $400. Like, this used to be thousands of dollars back in the day. And the bottom has fallen out on those test equipment things. If you're cheap, you can get a 3-in-1. Look at this, it's an oscilloscope, it's a DMM, and a tone generator. Well, it's not pocket size, but it's handheld. And this kind of thing is it's like sub $500 for these types of things. With probes, with all of this stuff, again, you're not gonna be doing, you know, 5 gigahertz kind of measurements, but for simple DMM and simple work, that's really it. If you're into building equipment, you must be into matching transistors. And if you can't afford like a Tektronix curve tracer, you can actually get these little tiny USB curve tracers, so you can actually measure diodes, transistors, NPN, PNP transistors. If you're into matching things, there's also tube testers you can now buy to match your tubes one versus the other. And you can get little, like these are preamp tubes, but then you can also get little sockets that go on top of them, so then you can also do power tubes like that. Maxi Matcher. I think the tube store in Hamilton has one of these on their desk. And yeah, very versatile, but like if you're seriously looking for the reason why this 12AX7 sounds better than this 12AX7, this may help you in your voyage of understanding how tubes work. We talked about cable testers. My colleague Gary, who's back there, you can build your own cable testers. What he has is he has like a little two-part transmitter receiver, little battery powered, little LED, a little AES3 connector hooked up to a diode, multiple connectors. Like these are, the funny thing is, this project box and cutting a hole in this project box and doing the work and the labor is like the cost of these things. So that whole DIY spirit can still exist, and you can still have your own stuff and build your own tools. And there's like a really, like Chris was saying, it's really satisfying to build stuff like that. But these types of things have been productized by companies like Sound Tools. And what this is, it's literally the same thing as this. It's a transmitter, it's a receiver, ABC, 1, 2, 3, away it goes. So
is that Dave Rat?
That is Dave Rat, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Question.
Yeah.
When you go back, if you have your pins 2 and 3 crossed, how does it show you on the ABC?
My understanding is they both go red.
Okay.
Right? Or if it's not there, it's just not there.
So A is pin 1, B is pin 2, maybe pin 3, C.
Well, what you're talking about, Gary, is a really good thing. Like it doesn't have the manual built into it, but I bet you if you rotate this, it may give you like a color code or some kind of decoder ring. Maybe it comes with a decoder ring. I'm not sure, but it's a really good question. But these types of things, like as a transmitter receiver package, this is $60, but that's US, so that's like 180 Canadian now. If you're really into cable testing. Okay, this is like serious cable testing here. So this is video equipment rental. So if you're into like 70 pin, 70 channel Veeam connectors, and you need to test the fan out of 32 channels of your Veeam connector, you gotta step it up. So well, like it's a common thing, like seriously, if you need that stuff, like this is an amazing company for you. And what this does is, this connects to these little breakout boards, and these breakout boards go on a system very similar to that. And what it does is it generates test reports for your breakout snakes. So if you really want to take cable testing seriously, like I say, the sky is the limit on some of these products. So this is the audio board. So it's kind of like what Gary had on his little thing. You put one in one, you put one in the other, and it'll test you for it. But we're talking in the hundreds of thousands of dollars for a cable tester. If you're into that kind of thing, it is available. Like that's the thing about, you can make it yourself, you can buy a pre-made thing, or the sky is the limit. Who knows what this is? Who's got one of these?
Yep.
Oh yeah, so this is the inductive, okay? So I've made thousands of dollars with this tool. I go to studios, some guy's got a single coil guitar pickup, and they're like, it's buzzing. So sure, I got my, I hear a ticking sound. Oh yeah, you think it's coming from my cell phone? Yeah. So I've gone around, where's that noise coming from? It's very much like Neil Munsey, if you remember Neil Munsey, would go around, sweeping the room looking for, let's see. Right? The noise comes from someplace. This is just a little magic wand for picking up inductive noise as it's emanating from these different devices. This little jobby here is, I don't know what to call this. It doesn't really progress.
It's a tone generator.
Tone generator. It's a bloop, 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 bloop. It goes bloop. That's what it is. So I call it the bloop machine for my kids. And the warbler, yeah, there you go. That's good. So you take these two test leads and you put it on a twisted pair line or a balanced line or something like that. You use this thing. You go around. It goes bloop, and that's your one that you're looking for. So if you're in a minefield of Ethernet, this also has like a little RJ11, I think it's an RJ11. You plug that into your telephone socket and go, it's there. And G, go.
So is that a new modern version of this that came out somewhat recently? I guess it's been about a year and a half or so.
This
and
is,
no, it's just more for networking.
Yeah.
It'll, it can test live networks and still put a tone through it.
So I wanted to include a slide about that, but you can actually get now new network tester analyzers. You plug it into any random port, it'll generate that. But we've got ones at work that you plug it in, it will become a DHCP, it'll ping the switch, and it'll tell you exactly which port you're on, the name of the switch, etc., etc. Like again, this is like Fox and Hound, as Gary calls it. This is like 1940s kind of technology, but highly, highly useful in 2024. Speaking of highly useful in the bottom of things, has everybody got one of these? Who's got one of these? Tristan, you got one of these? Okay, so this is the digital transistor tester meter diode triode capacitance. That's what you type in eBay to get this thing. So what you do is you take any device, you plug it into pins 1, 2, and 3. Like this is a triac, and it says this is a triac. You plug an inductor in here, it says this is an inductor, and it's this many millihenries. And it's a triac, and pin 1 is the collector, pin 3 is the gate, and pin A is the anode? Is it anode? Yeah, anode, cathode, gate. It tells you what the component is. This is $14. like I have 4 of them because I broke 2. Because the screen isn't even attached. It's so cheap. It doesn't even have a case. But anyway,
should build one.
Highly recommend. Well, don't build a case. You can buy one with a case for $16. But it has a little button on it. You push the button, and it tells you what your device is. So, like, if you're like me and you hate the resistor code, you put pin 1 and 2 or 2 and 3, whichever one you want. It'll tell you the resistance of that. It'll tell you the ESR of capacitors. You just have to have a really good 9-volt battery because it's got to compare it against something. And I think it regulates it down to 3.3 volts. But anyway, $15. Highly recommend that thing. If you got $700 kicking around, and you don't want to buy an audio precision, but you want the kind of results of an audio precision, this is the Quantasylum audio analyzer, and I highly recommend this device because it's just it's like the best quality USB sound card money can buy, but it's not a sound card, it's a DMM, multimeter, tone generator, analyzer, software suite, has a full API, can generate source sweeps, can generate graphs, it has macros built into it.
What's the computer interconnect?
USB.
Or USB?
It's just USB. But there's also an expansion, so they also sell a load, so you can actually have a load cell. You can have a microphone preamp for it. I use it for delay calculations, so I have my known path, and then I have something that's delayed, and it tells me how big the delay is. So for $5.99 US, again that's 1,500 Canadian. You can own one of these, and that's pretty much what it used to cost to buy one component inside your audio precision. Not to knock audio precision, but this kind of thing is democratizing accurate measurements in metrology. So I highly recommend that. Hey, if you're into fixing things and you love buying Canadian, I highly recommend Burlington's own MG Chemicals. If you know anything about ether, polyphenol ether is the best kind of ether. And what happens with contacts, when you flush contacts out, Tristan, what happens when you flush contacts out? You flush everything out. So you gotta put some kind of lubricant in your switches and some kind of, so if you're using pure contact cleaner, you have to, like neutral is like, it's like contact cleaner plus butter. That's what neutral is. This is polyphenol ether, and what it does is, it's a super contact cleaner, but it leaves behind a residue of all the good stuff, right? like, this is how you know, I have one can of chemicals, I can't remember which company it is, but there's dead fish and a tree with no leaves on it. I'm like, I want that one. But A1B with polyphenol ether, like, I cannot stress how important it is that your contacts actually have lubricant on them. Common misconception, yeah, flush away everything, plus the oil that goes with it. If you're all about flushing away things. This is, who has canned compressed air? Don't use it, it's terrible, use a vacuum. But I'm gonna recommend this air compressor. Just, because the better thing to do is to remove the dirt than it is to blow it in to your problem, right? You make the problem worse by blowing the dust in than taking it away. If you use compressed air, or if you want to clean your stuff, this is a handheld air compressor, effectively. So this is 130,000 RPM if it's in the third gear, because this thing has gears. You hold this thing, and it's a handheld air compressor for cleaning things. Highly recommend this, you know, like just cleaning off your desk. Like,
How many do you have?
I have 0 because they make a simple thing like this that attaches to my DeWalt drill batteries, and that's what I have. I didn't put a slide of that because this is like a handheld portable type of thing. Highly recommend this. One of my colleagues in who does electronic stuff, he swears by this thing as being just, and I agree with you. But suck, don't blow. If you're into wiring, who uses ferrules? English, it's not important. These things have changed my life because I used to do a lot of wiring kind of like this, where you twist a piece of wire, stick it in the hole, clamp down the screw. No more, absolutely no more. I use these ferrules, and what you do is you get the different gauges of wire. You get this little crimper tool, you put the ferrule in, wire in, boom, and you have like a solid piece of something for your clamp to go down on. Highly recommend this consumable. It is very much used in an industry, but if you're doing any kind of like, if you have to twist a wire and put it into something, you should put it into one of these before you put it into something. They make a couple different crimpers. I want to highlight this one. It's Knipex, whatever, German. The thing about that one is you can rotate the head on it, so if you're putting something into something that's deep inside something, it comes to you and you can adjust it before you crimp. And it does a square crimp on top of these things, and it is a game changer in terms of cleanliness and reliability in terms of connections. If you're into wiring too, Hellerman Titan. These have kind of fallen out of popularity just because they're very costly. But let's say you already have, you know, your spade connectors on certain things. What this does is you put this little sleeve with a little bit of lubricant on this tool, and it opens it up and spreads. You put your thing through it, it closes it down. There's no heat shrink, there's no lighter, there's nothing. And you can put them on afterwards. So if you forget to put the heat shrink on, this is the perfect tool for you. Don't step on these because you get stabbed 3 times when you step on them. Highly recommend it, but you need the lube It's an investment. And some people who've done installations for decades, like they'll use nothing but this. When you do cable management, a lot of people get into cable management, they use this flexible, expandable, Chinese finger trap kind of cable tie stuff. But what I found was, every time you want to add a wire, you gotta like fish it through the flexible stuff. So if you've ever fished a wire through this flexible tubing, you can now get it with Velcro, so you just open it up and put another piece of wire in. You can bundle all your power together. Like, they're using some of it here, but you see, look, this is a perfect example. Look, they got a sleeve and they got a loosey and a loosey and a loosey. So if they had a Velcro sleeve, they could have just added it to it and it would have been great. Don't step on it. It is slicker than cat shit on linoleum. And you will fall over if you step on it, so that hasn't changed. They haven't improved.
AES spec, by the way?
That is an AES spec, yeah. A lot of our cablers have really turned me on to not using cable ties. The thing about Velcro is it's gotten, like, as the patent expires, unless you're buying Velcro, branded Velcro, you can buy like a spool of double-sided Velcro for pretty cheap. And what a lot of our cablers do is they cut it to length, wrap it around, and they throw it in the garbage if they don't need it. The cable ties have fallen out of fashion. You cut yourself on them, you always have to snip it off. Like, you don't need any tools. So if you're bundling cables, use Velcro. It'll save you time and money and frustration, if you will. Speaking of time and money and frustration, who owns a Brother label printer around here? Okay, who has thrown a Brother printer in the garbage? Who has sworn never to buy Brother printers ever again? See, there we go. I'm glad I got two.
I have a Dymo one now.
Dymo one? It's
better?
I don't know if it's better. It's just like, when you get into labelers, you have to buy their label, you have to buy this, you have to buy that. I just we live in a consumable society and a disposable society, so I got into this little Kodak thing. And the reason I got into the Kodak thing, it's always the same size, it's always the same length. This is a Bluetooth USB thing, so I have an app on my phone, I just type in my label and it goes, it's $50 with 12 rolls. So, it says Kodak on it, so. Yeah, go.
Thermal printer, right?
It's thermal, yeah, it's thermal. But it's plastic, so these are plastic labels, they're not paper labels like you would see. So, if you're putting on a console or something like that, it's just save you some frustration. This is the most amazing, I saved one of the best things for last. Okay, so we were talking about the EtherCon. So one of the things about the EtherCon connector that has existed on the market previously is the head shell was attached to the RJ45, the 8P8C connector, if you will. And what you need to do for an EtherCon, you would have to unscrew they call it a boot, and then the chuck would fall out. I don't know why I know the Neutrik names for all of these things. But you would unscrew the boot, the chuck would fall out, and then the shell would come out, and you'd end up with 3 pieces in your hand, and then you could plug the Ethernet into your switch because your switch is not EtherCon compatible. These are the new NEMXR B top, whatever, but it's removable. It comes off as part of the connection, so it can either be an EtherCon compatible 8P8C connector, or you can plug it into. And for some people, they're like, Anthony, why is this important at all? Well, some of these rental companies just have thousands and thousands of these type of EtherCon connectors. And when you just need to plug it into a switch or something like that, it is a nightmare. And for a lot of rental companies, this will save a lot of time and energy and frustration in terms of losing your booths. They are AES 72 compliant. The EtherCon standard is actually an AES standard. I can't remember which one it is.
50!
Nope, it's not 50. I don't think it's 50. It's a good question. AES 50 is actually Behringer's MIDI over Ethernet protocol. So there is another one, I think it's AES 69. I don't know, I think it's that. But it is the detail of the mechanical specification. AES 50 is the MADI over Ethernet that is, it's commonly used in Behringer, as well as Midas, which is Behringer, all Behringer stuff. So, yeah. Okay, so this is where I'm gonna finish here. I don't know if anybody's seen the Burn Slap. Again, terrible name. Every one of these products I've had tonight has had a terrible name. I gotta finish off with the Burn Slap. So this is a ferromagnetic fluid speaker that dances. So I don't know if it's like oil or it's oil with the ferromagnetic fluid in it, but it just dances to the music, and you know, it's like the 2024 equivalent of a lava lamp and color organ all in one. And if you're into like having cool things at your house, and you know, it's like a cool little aesthetic. I don't know what the VU spec on this thing is. I don't know if it's the dispersion factor, but I'm sure somebody will come up with something like that. But there are a lot of cool audio gadgets that are out there. I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. I hope you enjoyed some of this stuff. I hope you were inspired. I hope you maybe found something that you didn't know existed. Like, I think I hit a couple things you may have never heard of or never seen before. But you know, this is where I'll end. I thank you all for coming out, and that's my email. I'm not joking. It's I-like.audio. And my YouTube is literally called like.audio. Yeah, I kind of have fun with that. Does anybody have any questions or any comments, or does anybody have a gadget in their pocket that they want to show? Or
I don't have it here, but your sync thing reminded me of it.
Yeah.
I don't think this has been made in a couple decades, but by a company called Genius Electronics. It's called the Russian Dragon.
Yeah, the Russian Dragon. Yeah, I know all about it. Yeah,
no, I love the thing.
So,
you plug in 2 inputs, your click, and your kick and snare, and it tells you your drummer's on or off.
Super boutique. Yeah, does everybody know about the Russian Dragon? It's literally called the. And
your Russian or your Dragon.
Yeah, it's your Russian or your Dragon. Yeah. So you put a click into it, you put a snare drum or a kick into it, and it tells you if you're Russian or a Dragon. I've used them in theater for time code, right? So it also works on an LTC time code, so you can actually tell if the time code is drifting.
If anyone's selling one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very boutique, esoteric type of thing, you know, like if you're into that kind of thing. I'm sure there's a piece of software that could do something like that for you.
I'm gonna see it on my desk.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, there's some cool stuff like that, yeah. If anybody would like to participate in our next event, January we're going to be doing a presentation on measuring. We got some people who are interested in doing that. The line I have is, one good measurement is worth the opinion of 1,000 experts. So if you can measure something, then you have like a real quantifiable thing, and hopefully we'll explore that topic next week. So thanks everyone for coming. Yeah, Ross got a question. Yeah, go.
Is the slide deck available?
I will put the slide deck on the website. Tristan, Chris, you're okay with slide deck on the website? Yeah.
Yeah, I had links on the website.
Yeah, so we'll put the slide on the website. Yeah, we'll do that for everyone. If you could help by putting your chair off to the side, that'd be great. And